Howdy folks. Today we're going to be looking at the Rawhide Kid, issue number 40. I've got a nice reader grade copy here. It smells incredible and it's in good shape. It's all legible, it's all complete, no craziness. This is a really great story. This is when the first time that the Rawhide Kid meets the Two Gun Kid, and they show on the cover there that they're against each other. It's sort of a misnomer, but you'll hear that in a second. So the way I'm going to do these videos is I'm going to do a brief synopsis up front and tell you kind of what it's about. Then I'm going to show each individual page and let you read it. If you're not interested in reading it, if you just want to hear me talk about it, you can skip to the time that's listed right here. You skip to that time and you'll bypass all the pages, and then you can just come to my dialogue on it. So the Rawhide Kid, during this Silver Age time frame, there would always be a primary story, and then there would be a secondary story, which wasn't usually Rawhide Kid related. So that's the same case as it is here. So there'll be two stories here. I'm going to talk about them one at a time. We'll do the first one, which is the main story. Then I'll do a small dialogue about it, monologue actually, and then we'll do the second story, and I'll do a short monologue about that as well. So if you want to read the book, read the pages, then let the video play. If you just want to hear about what I think about it and hear the Cliff's Notes, then skip to the time right here, and I'll be right back. So before I get into these, each page, I'm going to leave each page up for about 10 seconds, which isn't really enough time to read each one. So you may do some pausing if you're going to read this thing. I'll leave each page up for 10 seconds. You can pause and read and then hit play again. Each page will be up for 10 seconds, so you can pause in there, read it, and then hit play and go to the next one, and so on and so forth. I believe that the first story is 17 pages and the second story is 5, I want to say. Not 100% sure, but that's how I'm going to do it. Otherwise, if I left it up for 30 seconds or whatever long it would take you to read each page, it would be a 30-minute video. So just hit pause, read the page, skip to the next one, or you can just skip all the way to the monologue about it. So that's how we're going to do these. Okay, so if you read it, then you already know a lot of what I'm going to say, but I'm going to give a brief rundown of the story. In this story, the Rawhide Kid, as you probably know if you're a Rawhide Kid fan, he's wanted. He's a wanted man. He's wanted in several counties, but he's not wanted in other counties, so he has to be careful where he goes. He is passing near a county line. He knows he can't cross it because he'll get caught by the law on that in that county. But as he's passing by that county line, he sees that there's somebody in trouble. There's somebody that's being ambushed, and somebody that's having a tough time holding off his attackers. So he decides he's going to risk it for the biscuit, and he can't let a man go down who's being ambushed. So he decides to cross the county line and go see if he can help the guy who's being ambushed. When he gets there, he realizes that it's the two-gun kid. Okay, so before the two-gun kid can make eye contact with Rawhide Kid, a shot coming from the assailant hits a rock and knocks him unconscious. So the two-gun kid doesn't see what happens next. What happens next is the Rawhide Kid goes to his defense and realizes that what he's facing is a giant grizzly bear with a rifle, okay? Hold tight, it'll make sense in a minute. This grizzly bear with a rifle is shooting. He can tell that the grizzly bear is holding a Pony Express satchel, and he realizes that the grizzly bear has robbed the Pony Express and taken a payroll from one of the ranches probably. So what he does is he tries to go after the bear, but as he does so, the sheriff, the law in that county, sees him and decides that it's a good time to arrest the Rawhide Kid. Rawhide Kid tries to tell him that he's innocent, tries to tell him that he had nothing to do with the Pony Express robbery. They don't believe him, of course, because he's a wanted man, and they would never believe a story about a gun-wielding grizzly bear anyway. So the two-gun kid at this point wakes up and sees that the Rawhide Kid is being taken into custody. Of course, the Rawhide Kid has the ability to escape a lot. He is an escape artist, so he finds a way to work his knots loose that he's been tied up. And he's sitting on his horse, Nightwind. Now, Nightwind, as some of you will probably know, is the fastest horse in the West, and no other horse can match his speed. So as he breaks his hands free, he turns Nightwind loose, Nightwind takes off. So as he's taking off and running and heading back away from the posse, who's now chasing him but stands no chance because Nightwind is extremely fast, he runs into the two-gun kid. Now the two-gun kid is a law-abiding citizen who helps the law all the time, helps the sheriff all the time. That's part of what he does. So he tries to apprehend the Rawhide Kid. Of course, Rawhide Kid's guns were taken by the sheriff, so he has no guns, so they have a fist fight. And they're both extremely qualified and well-trained hand-to-hand combat experts, so they fight to a draw, essentially. The two-gun kid tells him, look, I believe you're innocent, but the only way to prove that is for you to come with me back to town, let the sheriff put you in jail, and we'll have a trial by jury. He says, if you're innocent like I believe you are, then everything will come out fine, you'll clear your name, and you will be able to go free. Which sort of doesn't make a lot of sense because he's already wanted in the county for something, so likely if he was acquitted of this stagecoach robbery, he would be probably have to go on trial for the stuff that he's already in trouble for. So, but he agrees to do it. We don't need to go into that much detail. He agrees to do it, and they ride into town together, the two-gun kid and the Rawhide Kid. Now, one of the ways that the two-gun kid gets the Rawhide Kid to come with him is he tells him that Matt Hawk will represent him at trial, okay? Now, Matt Hawk, as most of you may or may not know, is the two-gun kid. It's his alter ego. So the two-gun kid wears a mask, okay? That little mask right there apparently means that nobody recognizes him as Matt Hawk, the famous lawyer, famous trial lawyer in town. So obviously the Rawhide Kid doesn't know this. He goes into town, two-gun kid disappears, and all of a sudden Matt Hawk shows up. Yeah. And Matt Hawk says, I'm here to represent you. We're gonna go to trial. We're gonna fix this thing. Okay. So what happens next is a lynch mob begins to form outside of the jail. The sheriff is a good man. The sheriff decides that he's going to defend Rawhide Kid with all that he's got. And so he tells them, you need to disperse your lynch mob, get out of here. We're not about that life. We're not lynching anybody. And their argument is, well, we believe that the Rawhide Kid trained that bear. Okay, it's a little silly, but we believe that he trained that bear to rob the Pony Express and shoot a rifle. Now, of course, that's not true. But the guy who is leading this lynch mob, the guy who is the bad guy, is the one that's leading the lynch mob. Okay. And one of the things about that is his name is Ace Fester. Okay, Ace Fester is this creepy-looking, skeezy-looking guy with a bolo cap and a derby cap and a creepy mustache. So he's the one that's trying to get this lynch mob up. And when they get dispersed, he tells the sheriff right then and there, "Hey, listen. This bear that has been trained by the Rawhide Kid is going to come in here and tear this town apart, trying to rescue Rawhide Kid." Okay. Which is silly, but that's what he says. And during trial, while Matt Hawk is putting together a great defense for the Rawhide Kid and explaining what happened, the bear breaks into the courthouse and picks up the Rawhide Kid and carries him out. And everybody's saying, "Look, that's what Ace told us, that that he was coming to get his guy." So the bear takes Rawhide Kid out into town, finds a barn. They go into the barn, shut the door, and the grizzly bear starts talking to him. So it's obviously not a grizzly bear, which we knew already, but because he shoots a rifle. But he says, I'm gonna kill you here, and when they find your body, they're going to think that that the bear turned on you, the bear that you trained turned on you, and I'll be scot-free. Now, nobody knows that Ace is the bear at this time, so Rawhide Kid starts fighting him. He's able to rip the head off of this bear, and it's obviously just a costume. But before he can see who it is, he gets knocked back, and the bear takes off. As he exits, Two Gun Kid sees him, which he's again the Two Gun Kid. He put the little stupid mask on, and he's again the Two Gun Kid. And what they find is they find the bear outfit, okay? But it's got armor inside of it. So they know now why no bullets could stop it, and they realize they have to find the guy that did it. So the Two Gun Kid gets an idea. He says, "I have an idea. I believe that the perpetrator is in the saloon, so we're going to go in there, follow my lead on this." So they go into the saloon, and I think their words are, "Okay, Grizzly, you thought you were going to get away, but we discovered your identity." And, of course, what do you think happens? The guy says, "Hey, I didn't screw up. I didn't make any mistakes," and that's how they knew that it was Ace. But they get him, and he tries to shoot the Rawhide Kid. Rawhide Kid shoots the guns out of his hands, shoots the heels off his boots so he can't run away. That's basically the end. They arrest the guy, and as the sheriff comes in, he arrests him, and they look to see where the kids are, Two Gun Kid and Rawhide Kid, and they are both riding away into the sunset. And they both tell each other, "Looking forward to working with you again," which does happen later, much later, but it does happen again. So they ride off into the sunset. The bad guy is, the perpetrator is captured, and so on and so forth. So really great story. As always, you can see that here, this story was written by Stan Lee. It was drawn by Dick Ayers and lettered by Art Simek, whatever. Dick Ayers usually did the penciling on these, and a lot of times Jack Kirby would do artwork on these as well. But that's the primary story in this book. There is a secondary story, which we're going to talk about in a second. What I'll do now is I will do the same thing we did before. We'll put the We'll put each page on screen so you can read it. If you choose not to read it, go to the time listed right here, and you can just skip to my monologue about that story. So anyway, that's the main story, Rawhide Kid versus the Two Gun Kid. One of my favorite stories. They're all good, but I really like this one because these are two of my favorite Marvel characters of all time. You know, I love Spider-Man and Fantastic Four and all that, but I love these Western characters. They resonate with me. I grew up a Western fan, and I always will be one. So stick around. We're going to read this next story, which is much shorter than this one, and then we are going to talk about the story afterwards. So skip to this right here. Skip to this time frame if you do not want to read, if you just want to listen. Okay, the second story, which is much shorter again, in this Rawhide Kid number 40, is a story called The Fastest Draw, okay? The Fastest Draw. It's a good story. Most of the time on these secondary stories, the smaller ones, they're usually a story with a moral, and they're short and sweet, and then this is no different. This tells the story of two young men who were 20 years old who come from out east, and their names are Larch Morgan, and the second guy's name is Steve Foster. Now, Larch Morgan is a very ambitious man who wants to learn how to become a gunfighter and make his money as a hired gun. He wants to learn how to be the fastest gun with the most accurate shooter in the land. That's how he decides he wants to make his living. Meanwhile, Steve Foster, the other young man who comes to town with him, decides that he wants to learn how to be a rancher, and he wants to learn the business from the ground up. Larch tells him, "You're an idiot. You know, only a sucker would learn how to, would make his money with his hands, getting calluses, doing farm work." He said, "I'm going to go and be a bigger, famous man by becoming a great gunfighter." So the story goes that Steve Foster goes off on his own and starts off at the bottom at a ranch. And Larch goes and gets some guns and goes and tries to teach himself how to shoot. And he has a problem, a lot of issues at first. He doesn't know how to shoot very well. He's standing 10 feet from a rock and he has to unload 5 shots to hit the rock. It's ridiculous. But he spends months every single day practicing and training to be the fastest and the most accurate shooter ever. And he learns after a long while of working that, he actually has the ability, he has the skill set. So he learns he'll shoot all the limbs off a tree without missing a shot. He'll throw a bunch of gold pieces up in the air and shoot holes in every one of them before they hit the ground. He becomes a fantastic shot. To go back for a second, I love the first part of this. There's always a box at the beginning of these things that gives you sort of a brief synopsis, and it says, "They tell tale of fast guns like Earp and Hickok and Billy the Kid. But the fastest draw of them all was a man about whom no legends were written, no ballads were sung. His name was Larch Morgan, and this is his ironic tale." Okay, so Larch Morgan, so he learns, and he gets picked on at the beginning of this by some guys, but he trains himself how to do it. He gets himself ready. He learns how to spin the gun and put it back in the holster, and he walks into town. And he says, "I'm ready. I'm going to go into town. I'm going to show how much of a bad gunman I am." So he walks into town one day, getting ready to show who he is and how bad he is. He's got his gun slung real low, which is usually a indicator that somebody is a gunfighter. And these guys are looking at him, and he's thinking, "The men will tremble at my name, women will swoon at my feet, I will become a legend." And these men walk up to him, including the sheriff, and they've got guns pointed at him. And he says, "I haven't done anything wrong. What are you upset with me about?" And they tell him, "Hey, look, the day of the gunfighter is gone. It is now illegal for anybody other than law to carry firearms in town. So he has to go do a short stint in jail. While he's in jail, Steve Foster, the other young man who Larch was making fun of at the beginning, comes in and says, "Hey, listen, I've been made the foreman of the spread of the ranch, and when you get out of here, I'll give you a job as a ranch hand." And Larch says, "I guess I don't have any choice. I don't have any other trades. I don't have any skills other than shooting, and that doesn't mean a thing anymore." And the final panel says, "Thus, a ruthless career was ended before it began. And the territory's fastest draw, Larch Morgan, was never able to win a place in the colorful annals of the Old West." So it's just a short little story. But I did want to point out one thing here. Right here, you see how annals is spelled, A-N-N-E-L-S. Well, that's misspelled. A-N-N-A-L-S is the correct spelling. So, and this wasn't like a typo. These were hand lettered. So it was spelled incorrectly. I just thought that was kind of funny. So anyway, Rawhide Kid number 40, fantastic stories, wonderful book. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys to death. But if you enjoy the video and you like to see more of these comic book breakdowns, I won't just do Westerns. This is just the first one I'm doing. So if you'd like to see more of these, let me know, and I'd be happy to do it. So anyway, go pick up a copy of Rawhide Kid 40 at your local comic store. It doesn't matter what kind of condition it's in. Please don't get a slab. You can't read them. Just go in, pick you up an old $5 beater copy of this, stick it in your collection, and read it. Have a great day.